Happy Sunday, everybody. We're back on the Barracuda again today. So today what we want to do is go ahead and start measuring for drive shaft length, get our drive shaft modified, and we want to get our transmission cooler mounted. And also, if we can, we want to strategically start getting these cooler lines ready. Although we don't have a radiator yet, we need to start figuring out where they're going to need to go into the radiator and then into the cooler. So that's a couple things that it's going to take a minute, but we also going to need to measure between our water pump pulley and basically where the core support's at right here, so we can get an idea. We get ready to order a radiator for this thing, get that ordered. So let's get started. All right, I've got one jack on one side, the bottle jack. I've only got one. So I'm going to use the transmission jack on the other side. Basically, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load the rear suspension. I'm going to pull my yoke out probably about 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to take a measurement. After this is loaded, I'm going to take a measurement from the center of the hole right here in the yoke to the pads right here, which will be the center of where the U-joints go right here. It's gonna be very, very easy. So let's get this going. All right, let's see. Pretty close here. Yeah. That's probably a little over 1 inch right there, at least from the gasket, from the bushing. Oh yeah. Let's just get this, maybe 1.5 inches, just for safe measure. Now I'm doing this on my 2-post lift, but I'm just trying to feel right here, just barely going, and I can't turn my pad, so I'm just still going to keep going. I'm just going to barely. Going easy. Okay, I can see it trying to. Now, I've got that side fully loaded. Obviously, I'm fully loaded here. So, now the rear end is up as far as it's going to go. So now let's take a measurement. And again, right in the middle, almost to the middle, but I'm just going to round it. We have, looks like 48.5 inches to here, to the face of our U-joints. So now let's just get another measurement. Honey, if you would, go to the top pad, to this one here. There you go. And then that's, yeah. So we're gonna call this, it just barely moved to the other side. So dead nuts in the middle is gonna be 48.5 inches. Pretty easy. That's how easy it is. All right, now I thought we'd just go ahead, since how we're here, do two things. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can calculate ballpark what our rear gear ratio is on this 8 3/4. Pretty sure I know what it is, remember correctly. But let's just go ahead and do the calculation with the car on the lift, and I've marked my yoke right here on the rear end, and I put a little small dot because then we'll get new tires messed up right there. So let's see how many times this rolls over to how many times this makes one turn. All right, let's go. All right, here we go. I'm gonna start turning the wheel forward. Let's count how many times this yoke turns. There's one. Two. 3, 3, 4, and let me show everybody where my mark's at. If you come over here and look at the tire. So here's my mark right here. We've already turned 4 times. So what percentage of a full circle am I from here? Will we call that 30%? What will we call that? This would be, I believe, 4 1/4. Let's see. I'm trying to do this math in my head, folks. This should be 4 1/4. Let's see. This would be a half, 3/4. Yeah. So if that was, I'm going to say if it came back down, the line was here, it came back down here. So I'm going to say, you guys tell me, is that 411? It's coming back down, and the dot, now I'm going to say I'm going to call that 430. Here's my dot right over here. There's my dot right there. And you guys tell me if you want to argue, put it in the comments. I'm going to call that a 430 by how far that's turned almost all the way around. You guys tell me. And here's the other reason why I'm going to tell you it's a 430. I bought this third member from a gentleman in Michigan that was drag racing a Duster, and he had a 430 rear end. So pretty sure that's what it is. When I called Silversport, they asked me what gear it was I had in the back, and I told them a 430. You guys tell me, what do you think it was? Do you think it was a 430 or do you think it was a 411? I had a 411 in it, but this is supposed to be lower. Now let's do something really cool. Let's calculate what the final ratio is going to be in overdrive with the 4L60E. So the 4L60E transmission has a final overdrive ratio of 0.7 or 70%. So let's take our 4.30 rear gear ratio times 70%. That's a 301. I'd say that's pretty darn good. 301 with having 430 gears. Gotta remember, I can come down probably to a 411 and this will go down. But, you know, I made the decision to start off with, I think I want to play with 585 horsepower with a 430 rear gear on the street. That's the fun of these overdrives, man. You can put some gear in these things. Now, the tires are a 275/60. There's also a part of this calculation that you're going to take into the overall diameter. So I'll plug this into one of the calculations on the internet. I'll find one of those. I'll get this overall diameter here along with the rear gear ratio and the overdrive of the transmission. And let's see what this thing's going to do at 70 mile an hour. So I'm on spicerparts.com. Makes it pretty easy. So let's plug this in. 4.30 is our ring and pinion gear. The tire height of a 275/60 ranges between 27.8 and 28.2 inches. So we're just going to put 28. We're not going to get exactly, but we're going to get close. Engine RPM. Let's see what we're going to be doing. Let's just say 2,400 RPM. And then transmission ratio. Let's put this in at 0.70. Let's calculate. Okay, so at 2,400 RPM, this thing's going to do about 66 mile an hour. That's pretty good. Let's see what it's going to do. Let's say I'd like to know what it's going to do at 70. So let's go back here and maybe let's try 2,800 RPM. Damn, that's 77 mile an hour. That's plenty. So let's see what we've got at 20. 600 RPM. Oops. '71, I think, almost 72 mile an hour at 2,600. That's good enough for me. You gotta remember, this isn't a Hellcat. It's not a Scat Pack. It's still a 1968 Barracuda. I'm not building it to run speed races or frankly, you know, I don't want to be in the thing doing over 100. Maybe if I do a little pass down the 8th mile or something, but it's a cruiser, okay? I think that's pretty darn good. Should be pretty healthy with the 4L60's first gear ratio and that 430 rear end. We're gonna stick with this 430, and if that's what I say, 430, and let's see how we like it. So it's not perfect, but it's ballpark. Trish was holding this right here, and I got basically, I believe it was 7 1/4 inches from the pulley on the water pump to this plane where the core support's at right here. So close enough. Now, what I'm going to ask everybody out there, on my subscribers and viewers, what radiator would you suggest? I went on For A Bodies Only, great website. They gave me some suggestions. Some guys are saying don't reinvent the wheel. Just buy the whole radiator assembly for a 2009 or 2012 Challenger RT. I don't know. Would that work? You guys let me know. Tell me what you think. I really want to know y'all's comments. What radiator would you go with in one of these things? So we've got that measured. I'm going to start looking. Now, let's start playing with these cooler lines that we got from Silversport.
Be able to tighten that up. I think that's a 960.
All right, now we've got our hard lines on, the flex lines. Yeah, it's close to the header. We're gonna get some brackets. We're gonna come up with something to pull these up off that header, but I still don't like it being close to that header, but there's nothing I can do. Here's what really kind of makes me a little nervous. So I made damn sure all these lines, every one of these fittings is tight as heck. Because as everybody knows, transmission fluid will catch on fire, and it'll damn sure catch on fire on that header tube. So again, we got to use a lot of caution when we first start this car up. Make sure that I didn't leave anything loose, and I'm sure we're going to have, once we pressurize everything, we're going to see. But anyway, we're going to come up with some brackets. I ran it through the Hemi-Denny front suspension. I guess your engine bracket supports right there. That actually worked pretty good. Kind of help it route through there. We're going to put some sleeves on here so we don't chafe against the steel piece right there. So we're going to put that on. And then up here where it comes through, obviously we're going to have to do some bending. We're going to have to cut these anyway because we've got to route the transmission cooler lines as well. So I kind of drew out a rough schematic. This is the one right here coming out of the transmission. And I think what we will do is probably have this go ahead and go into the radiator. And then when it comes out here, I'm assuming on the radiator somewhere over in here is where we're going to have basically probably it come, let's see, how am I going to do this? Some way I did it before, but I've got to cut these to make it go through the cooler after it goes through the radiator. So I've got the radiator, the transmission cooler painted. So let's get ready to get that mounted, and you guys tell me what you think about where I'm about to mount it. Yeah. It's nice and stiff. It doesn't have to be, but just, so I think that's a pretty good place. It's barely covering up any of our condenser. It's right here. And if you step back, you really can't hardly see it. but it's going to get plenty of air coming through the grill. I think somebody on 4A bodies only, appreciate what you said. You kind of just following what you said on the driver's side behind the grill. And our condensers should have plenty of airflow for the AC. Yeah. Okay. So now I've routed my hoses. They're down here somewhere. They're gonna come around. Now I've figured it out. I'll have to cut this, put a tubing adapter or splice it or something. This is coming out of the transmission. This is gonna go directly to one side of the cooler. And then the hoses, and here's our hoses. So the other side of the cooler is gonna come back in and the return's gonna remain the same. I don't have to cut anything on the return. So it took me a minute to remember how I did the last one, but pretty easy. Transmission cooler is now mounted. So it's not plugged in yet because obviously I don't have a radiator. So now let's see what we've got to move on to next. All right, and next is I guess this is a neutral safety switch. One heck of a neutral safety switch. Now, Silversport says we're not going to use this terminal at all, but they gave us the harness for this one. So it's basically neutral safety and reverse. So we'll wire this into the shifter. Pretty easy. I have many metric bolts around here, but I did find one. It was a little too long. So obviously you see here the slots where the bolt holes go. So obviously it's adjustable. To adjust your lights, I guess, to set the reverse and I guess neutral safety. What I'll do is probably wire one of these to the neutral safety switch that we have a temporary setup on up there. But now it's going to be awfully close for that. I need to change this bolt, see if I can get it further down in there. So they tell you right here, connect A ring terminal to a clean vehicle ground, crimp C to a 12-volt supply. So we need a 12-volt supply for that one. D will be our neutral safety ground. We're going to wire that up to the relay. And then it looks like crimp F. F will be the reverse light. And I think what we're going to do, we either go up to the harness, the American Auto Wire harness if we want, or if whatever shifter we pick out, it may have something set up where we can turn the reverse lights on with that. I don't know, but options. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in for now, but obviously we're going to keep the directions. So just let everybody know, so I don't have to take this back off and read the little bitty letters. Trish went ahead and tagged all these A, D, F, C. You just have to look at the schematic now and know where to go with it. So just something to make it a little bit easier. That's all. And now, finally time to use our Milwaukee cordless grease gun. Makes it so easy. Well, I think that's going to be a wrap for today, but we got a lot of the little stuff done. So we got our drive shaft link verified. So we're going to take our drive shaft to Fort Smith, Arkansas over here. Got a super good drive shaft shop. We verified gear ratio. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, if it's a 411. Pretty sure it's a 430, but hey, I'm open to comments. We know pretty close to what's going to turn going down the road with overdrive on the 4L60. We got our transmission lines hooked up back here to the transmission, the cooler lines that go to the transmission, the flex lines. We're still going to put some brackets up there and do a few things. Trish did a great job of insulating the lines so they're not going to chafe. Going through our Hemi-Denny HDK front suspension conversion. We got our transmission cooler mounted right here. I think that's probably a pretty good spot, guys, on 4A bodies only. Thank you very much. And we got our reverse and neutral safety switch mounted. and it's not terminated yet because we got to buy some other things. And we verified that we've got 7¼ inches between the pulley of the water pump and the core support. So I'm going to get ready to start looking at radiators and get that ordered. You guys tell me in the comments what you think. I'm open to suggestions on radiators. Please let me know what your thoughts are. So this is going to be part of the 4L60 part 3, whatever, and some other things, cooling. And so if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe, and write it down in the comments. Let me know. You think it sucks? You think it's, I don't know what I'm doing, which I'm not saying I do, but anyway, keep it in the comments. Hope everybody has a great Sunday, and have a good weekend.